Hello. And,
It's not Cat Academy yet, Troy.
it's not Khan
Jeez.
Academy. It's not. Well, I am joined today by a very special guest, Mr. Thomas, if I can call you that.
Yes,
Good
that
stuff,
works.
sir. Good stuff.
I
So,
won't make you use my I won't make you use my PhD title. I'm not that much of a pretentious
oh,
asshole.
he slipped that in already. The demonstration's
Oh
not
yeah.
on you. We're only a few seconds in. Um, so basically, Thomas is a guy I've worked with for a number of years now. He's
Yep.
been a student of mine on various different things. He's kind of interesting actually because it occurred to me before we came on. Of course, you've been on Khan Academy, Charisma and Dating Academy, and you've also now been on the My Social Attraction System mentorship program as well, which is a 3-month basically program where we work together more intensely. So you've actually been on both of the programs now. So it'd be kind of interesting to get your thoughts on both of them, really. But I suppose overall, I mean, the first thing I guess I wanted to ask you really was before embarking on any of this, um, before we sort of work together at all, what kind of problems or struggles were you having that caused you to sort of look for this kind of help?
So the big part of my struggle was okay, let's take a step back. I am a very logical person. I'm a data scientist in real life. So when I set up an experiment or a conclusion, when I set up a hypothesis, it's like I'm going to test this. This is how I'm going to do it, and this is what the result is. And you keep iterating on that in real life, and you go through there, and it's very, very logical. Well, unfortunately, when you try and do that with women and you are very anal retentive and detail oriented, more often than not, it's going to blow up in your face.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm not trying to jump into some manifesto about how women are terrible or women are great or anything.
mm,
It's just a sort of the nature of the beast.
yeah,
And so when you have situations like that, I realized what I was doing, how I was presenting myself to, not to women as well as some and many other men, was not really functioning in an ideal way.
mm,
So,
mm,
I started looking for answers. And I mean, you can see behind me, there's a cross over my door. I live in a conservative area of the United States. So, a lot of that stuff was find religion. And it's like, okay, well, yes,
mm,
I understand we can sloganeer this into the dirt, but I've been an internet person for a very long time. Again,
yeah,
data scientist, computing degree, blah, 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 whatever. So I started looking around. I bumped into you, Troy, and I just started asking questions. And those questions, led me down the red pill rabbit hole, which
mm,
with anything you do, there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. And hopefully there should be stuff that you agree with and you disagree with. And
indeed,
that progression happened for me. And out of those questions came, okay, what doesn't work? What works? What doesn't? How do I need to change myself? And then once I've changed that, okay, where am I? Let's reassess. Going back to the hypothesis, experiment, conclusion, reassess what hasn't worked. And then, also on top of that, is it not so much my system for approaching women as much as because of how I choose to live my existence? I work a ton of hours. Do
yeah,
I need to change some of that? And instead of focusing on, call it the female problem, I'm doing the painful
mm,
air quotes thing. Can I solve some other problems in terms of networking or interacting with people outside of my job? And by solving those, have a secondary effect in the dating market. And ironically, there have been some false starts. I've certainly blapped myself in the face with many, many female rakes. Like the let's drink around the bar and talk about the blowouts is always a fun game for me because I will rock and roll with it. But that's how I've iterated on it, and it's turned into something fun. Like
mm,
now, a girl says, "No, I don't want to hang out with you." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna go do this. Bye."
yeah,
And I'm not gonna get mad about it. So
yeah,
being able to do that, like the biggest thing I got from all of your courses, if you wanted to have a one line, sloganeering thing, is going back to not really caring or not getting bent out of shape about something. When I
Yeah.
deal with a lot of people in my space, like I'll use the data science space or the computing space, they get hung up on some accuracy measure, like painfully so. It's to the point where when I deal with undergrads, I'm like, do I have to give you the R-squared root canal? Which, oh my God, it's not this, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's like, it does it, at the end of the day, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like you did something, you fix it the next time. And getting over that hump has been a big deal, Troy. And I apologize for the soliloquy, but yeah, that's been my big takeaway through all of your programs.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. No, thanks for the detail. There's a couple of things. So, firstly, obviously, you've told us you work in data science. I don't know if you wanted to share, just for context, just for the guys watching this, like age and your sort of previous
Sure.
relationship type history. But then, secondly, it would be kind of interesting actually if we could talk a little bit about being super logical and in this space, because I think that's a really key point that you've hit on there. But yeah, what
Sure.
was had you, obviously marriage, anything like that in the background, or what was your status before you came into this?
Infrequent dates. And then looking back on it, knowing what I know, I wish that I knew all I know now when I was younger was a hit song for a reason. Not very healthy relationships, like weird codependence issues, and just a bunch of frustrating stuff. So not, had relationships, but not what looking back I can say was a very healthy dynamic. In terms of age and stuff, I'm 36. And finally, after, defending my dissertation, I've making money, getting out in the world more, because if you've never done a PhD, you're 40, 50, 60 hours a week for multiple years, particularly in one of the harder fields. And I have my PhD is in computing. So, it was a difficult curriculum. We can, outside of what it was, we don't have to talk about.
Social studies then.
Well, no, I did not. I did not do a survey about feelings, which is rife with insanity. Like that actually has infiltrated some of computing. And I occasionally, one of the things you do with a dissertation is you suddenly get asked to review other people's research, or with a PhD, you get asked to review other people's research. And I get this thing, and it's like, you read the questions and you're like, dude, come on. How did this happen? So it's infiltrating computing, but a few of us are like, no, this is crap, go away.
Yeah.
But anyway, the super logical thing to me comes down to, understanding that not every problem is logical. Like it is entirely possible for you to do absolutely everything like empirically right. Like you can have your being your fitness on point, your money on point, your house on point, your diction on point, your doing fun stuff on point, and it just won't work. Like it won't work for reasons that are completely beyond your control. And like that's really hard for me, because with data science, like, okay, I have to solve this problem. Like I have to solve a mathematical formula to predict something.
Yeah.
We iterate on it. Okay, we do a thing, it works. It doesn't work. How do we change it? And frequently you get to a conclusion. But this sort of thing, one of the other parts of it for super logical people is sometimes there isn't a conclusion.
Yeah.
Like or sometimes the conclusion isn't what you want.
Because there is a group of clients who come to me. I mean, obviously, I get a variety of different people from different backgrounds and different, coming from different baselines. But there certainly is a contingent of guys, and I was kind of one of them. Although I'm not as scientifically minded, but in any sense as you are. But I think a lot of us can be quite cerebral, quite stuck in our heads, and also kind of super logical. And obviously, people talk about the spectrum, and some people are as certain part of whatever that spectrum is and everything. Is there? I believe that you can step outside of that, and you can embrace a less logical and more maybe emotional sort of way of dealing with these things. But do you think that that's possible, or do you think it's kind of quite difficult for some guys?
I think a lot of that, yes. The short answer is I think it is. I think that is possible.
Yeah.
The longer answer is, how do you reframe this set of logic?
Yeah.
One of the issues that I've had when it comes to you start consuming this dating content, you start going through, you read, Rational Mail, all the highlights. We can go down the laundry list. I can give you a reading list, read Troy Francis's books.
Indeed.
But what a lot of people are looking for doesn't exist. A lot of guys, it's this notion of essentially A to B to D to C, or A to B to C to D, excuse me, silly me. And one of the things about super logical people is that makes sense. But unfortunately, life in a complex situation and intersocial dynamics are always complicated. Like there's just, there's always 1,000 things going on that you can't perceive. How many times, you get into a relationship with a woman and she just like loses her shit on you. Now there's a part of it where you probably did something wrong that, but some whatever nonsense. But it also could be she had a crappy day at work and vice versa. So one of the things to get out of the logical kind of like waterfall-y framework in my head is, understanding that you can't plan for every contingency. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't plan. It's just, there's an Eisenhower quote that I looked up before this. And, Eisenhower essentially said, the guy who planned D-Day in many cases, planning is indispensable, but plans are useless. And the way you actualize that in a cold approach scenario with a woman, a social scenario where you're first being introduced to a young lady, or however, like mutual friends, it's so dynamic. It's like, I'm gonna, what the plan in that case is, what can I control? I can control where I am, because I'm not a bar guy. If I'm a bar guy, it's like a whiskey cigar bar, which that's great. There will be an occasional girl there, but I can tell you the clientele is radically different than a dance club. It just is.
Indeed. Yeah.
But where you are, a lot of your, like, what environment variables can you control? Where you are, you're if you're in a bad mood, don't go do cold approach. You're going to get your face shot off multiple times. But that's the sort of thing, that's the planning we can talk about. But the plan itself, I'm going to go up to the girl and I'm going to see that she has, a lazy eye in this, and I'm going to be able to say this one line, and then suddenly, bibbity bobbity boo, we're having sex in the bathroom. Everyone would be so lucky if it was that easy. And 90% of the time, it's just simply not.
Unfortunately, life comes up and smacks you in the face, doesn't it? Often.
Right. So as I finally started to understand that, it's like the question shifted from what interaction can I plan with this young lady to what do I need to set the stage to have a positive interaction with this young lady. The whole thing started to flip that was kind of the flipped switch. So, I know in social attraction system, I'll spoiler a little bit and you can cut this if you want. You have us do a large number of cold approaches. Now, what does cold approach mean? Approach in the grocery store, approach at dinner, approach at a social event, approach at whatever. And that really gets you into that environment where, like, you're approaching at the grocery store. Well, if you're only buying, potato chips for some reason, that's kind of, you can go that in a mini mart, which is kind of that's an extreme example, but I'm using an extreme example to be illustrative of my point. Like, if you understanding, like, when I'm going to the grocery store, generally I have a plan. I have to get this, I have to get this, I have to get this. Oh, this thing happened. Cool. It's not like I'm grifting for food at the local Walmart. So that to me is how you can apply hyper logic. I know that's kind of a ham-fisted example, but that's how you can apply a hyper logical idea, by understanding that where you put yourself in your environment is going to affect who you see, who you attract, and how you interact with the world. Again, going back to what I said, I'm not a dance club guy. I'm the whitest kid you know. My dancing literally makes people laugh, because I'll be an idiot and dance in the gym I'm in between doing stuff. I don't care. But that's not where I'm going to be able to leverage what I am in a positive way. So that's what I mean. Can you create the environment to leverage what you are? Exactly. And as part of that, get healthy in your own skin.
Context matters a lot with this stuff, doesn't it?
Yes.
But, But tell me, when was the point when you felt, when you decided, right, I'm going to work with Troy now? What was that moment about? How did that come
So
about?
sure. So I think whenever you get into something new, or at least when I get into something new, I start just taking in, like, just drinking from a fire hose of data. It's
Yeah,
like, I'm going to listen to this guy and listen to Troy and listen to this other guy, and he's going to say some things.
yeah,
And, and what you end up doing is you want to start paring that down. And unfortunately, given the Twitter space, air quotes,
mm.
you
Yeah,
get this 140 character or now 280 character slogan, and it's like, what the hell does this actually mean?
yeah,
And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you leverage Twitter to make money. And fine, like, I understand the game. But that said, it was like, okay, I now have this deluge of information. Some of it's going to work for me, some of it is not. I need to actually have a one-to-one conversation like we're having, and be able to actually ask, Troy, I approached this girl and I did this and I did that, and it didn't work out. What's your read on it?
mm, mm.
And that started, that I've done that to you multiple times, as you well know.
Yes,
It's also, like, I know, spoiler alert, Cat Academy, you actually post up some videos of you doing an approach to a young lady. Done
mm.
that on Instagram as well. And so, you go up to this girl and you notice, like, I'll never forget this. I believe it was a French young lady who was in all black and military boots, and she was a pistol. I mean, she was,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
and
know one.
and and there's nothing, like, there's nothing wrong with her. I'm not judging this girl one way or the
Mm.
other, but you watch the interaction instead of just, oh, what, read this Twitter thread or read this book. It's like, okay, Troy, I know you probably can't answer this specifically, but why did you do what you did?
Yes,
And that's sort of why you did what you did. I can then take and translate into my world, because I can tell you, going back to this French young lady, she was, I mean, I looked at her, I'm like, you're hot, but you just don't seem pleasant to me. And
mm.
you're not going to make my life very much better based off a 30-second interaction. Now, I realize that's a quick judgment, but it's like, okay, even though I don't want that, what can I get out of this to potentially juxtapose onto my own existence? And my style now is, like, aggressively not caring.
Yes, yes. And like you said, I mean, not caring is really, it's when we reach the level of Zen, not giving a fuck. Basically,
Yeah.
that is when, strangely, the results start to come. But it's very difficult to get there, though, isn't it? Because of course, when we come into this, we do massively care because we want the
Yes.
result. But counterintuitively, it's letting go of the result. It seems to me is when we become most successful.
So the thing I've realized, and you're right, I completely agree with you. This goes back to the environment thing for me. Like, this is where it really clicked, particularly over the past probably 6 to 9 months. Is I hate the phrase deep work. It makes my
Mm.
sets my teeth on edge, because I think
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that's like, let's have a catch-all phrase to mean 1,000 things. But anyway, the way I've actualized not caring is, like, what do I like to do? I do like data, I like computers, but that's kind of my profession. What do I do for fun? Like, where do I enjoy fun stuff? And so it comes down to, like, I've gotten into kickboxing and MMA, which is really weird for a data scientist. I should
Mm.
probably make a Twitter handle for that. But hanging out with those folks, male and female, like, I'm dating a young lady from the MMA gym. Whenever we flirt, it looks like a fist fight. I promise it's not. Don't cancel me. But I like going to symphonies. There's
Mm.
next week, there's a local symphony that's doing the Lord of the Rings. I will be there. And and so that's what I mean when you flip it on its head. Like, what looks fun to you? Well, shared interests is one of the best ways to meet people that you, air quotes, click with, if you ask me.
Yeah.
You can do the apps and you can do all that, and it'll certainly spread a wider net that way. But shared interest is the foundation of most relationships. Like, I know a bunch of people that love college football, American college football. Okay, well, how do you actualize that? I like to cook. I like college football and I like to cook. Well, I promise you, if you pick a 10-pound Boston butt and you smoke that thing, you will be the most popular guy at the party you throw. So, that sort of environment control. And then it's like, okay, well, I didn't have fun with you there. Bye. And so stuff like that. I realize the party you throw is again kind of ham-fisted, so I apologize. But to me, it's more about what do I find fun and what mutual interests can come of that. Because you have the symphony is probably the best example. You're at the symphony, you enjoy it, you see a young lady, or you see a young lady and you say, oh my gosh, what did you think of, please don't say, oh my gosh, but what did you think of the Rohan theme, because it's Lord of the Rings symphony next week? Did you really like that? And oh, it was cool, blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, do you like Lord of the Rings? Or, and then you have a canned opener, and you're both just experienced the thing, and suddenly by having a discussion of shared experience, it's like, that's really cool. I'm sorry I have to go, but let me give you your number. Let's meet for coffee and debate Lord of the Rings or other movies, or however. From there, the plan goes out the window, because then you're just in the conversational flow. And it's maybe she doesn't like Lord of the Rings, which is like, why the hell did you go to a symphony without Lord of the Rings? So suddenly you have to tap dance a little bit, and maybe you do find something that she likes, or you see something that she's wearing, and so that's really how I've gotten a way to not care, because at that point I know I'm going to like it, because I like symphonies, I like Lord of the Rings. And if I have a bad interaction with a young lady I would approach, I still had fun. Who cares?
Exactly. So self-amusement, doing things that you want to do, super important.
Right.
Self-amusement, super important. And also there's a piece there about trying to have a conversation with somebody, really creating a connection with somebody. Sometimes you have to throw out a few different things. Like you might start with Lord of the Rings and that doesn't go anywhere. And then you try, oh, you lived in France and that doesn't really go anywhere. And then you try something else and suddenly that one clicks. And that's the thing that you guys can move forward with.
Right.
But just having a think about the programs, because as we said, you've been on CAD Academy, and
Sure.
you've also been on Social Attraction System. So with CAD Academy, what would you say the main things that you took from that were? And obviously we're opening that again soon, and you'll be there as an alumni, which would be fantastic. But yeah, what are the key things that you think that you took from that program?
So I know I'm going to hammer this again, and I look at it like a progression. We started working together pre-CAD Academy. I was asking you questions, I believe, through your Patreon at the time.
Yeah.
You released CAD Academy, and that was it's getting to a funnel. It gets into, God, to go data science, what's half of what I do? It's making sure the data that I'm passing to a model makes sense and gives me the result I want. That's data science from 50,000 feet. So the CAD Academy program was just another part of that to me. You will see cold approaches. You'll see discussions of various points, and I'm trying not to give away your product for free here, Troy. So I'm trying tap dancing a little bit, but and you're going to be around a group of people. And I'll tell you this part, you're going to get into a group where, you can ask folks, I had this situation and I don't really understand it. Help me out. And you're not just going to get, data scientist over here who, whatever. You're going to get some older gentlemen. You're going to get some younger guys, and you're going to get people from around the world. So,
yes,
the realities of dating where I am in my circumstance are not the same as the realities of dating in Europe, or dating in the northeastern United States, or in if you're over in Indonesia, which I'm not sure we have an Indonesia guy, but the point stands. So you have a ready spot to both see things, have live discussions with you or other guests you bring in, and then it's kind of like go forth to victory. And if you're victorious, we'll come talk about it. And if you are not victorious, we can say, have you considered it this way?
Yeah.
That's what I've gotten out of most of CAD Academy. And I'm still in the group chat. I don't talk very much because I do stay busy, but that's the stuff I've seen throughout my time in that around that program. And even now, even though I feel like I'm a lot more competent when it comes to dealing with these sorts of things, and I'm on the right path, or on the path I want to be on, whatever right or wrong is, I still look forward to doing Cat Academy again, because it's every time you do something like this program, you're in an area that you might not be 100% comfortable, or you're going to evolve as a human being. Like, if you're not evolving, you're dying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see something different. Like, maybe going back to hammer on this young French lady, I'd be like, oh, I know how to handle that now. She's not quite so annoying. I would have enjoyed being Troy Francis in this situation.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, good stuff. And there's a really important point there about community, I think, because actually having a cohort of guys that we can speak to and we can run things past is really super valuable, isn't it? And just having people that we can get a second opinion from on different things, particularly in this dating arena, because and a lot of guys will have friends, really good friends, maybe people they've known since childhood and stuff, but they can't really talk to those guys about this stuff in the same way, because those guys maybe are coming at it from a very different angle. Like, say all of your friends got married when they were in high school and they're now with their childhood sweethearts and you're not. So you can't really talk to those guys because they're just not going to get it in the same way that you do, right?
Yes, and I have two very good friends from grade school, actually, grade school, high school. They're good guys. I look at their current dating existence, and I think it's kind of bleak, frankly.
Yeah.
And so, or I don't want to call it, I guess you call it bleak because they're content in a relationship where I'm like, couldn't be me, man. Nope, 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 nope. Don't want it. I've dealt with exactly what you're dealing with. I know I don't like it. And you're so invested in your young lady that you're just going to be okay with it. And I'll give you a perfect example. One gentleman started dating a girl, and I'm a nerd. You may have noticed. I pretty much embrace that. And we all, like, I own my own house, and and so do most of my other two friends. One of the running jokes we have is give each other nerdy stuff. And perfect example, a friend of mine got a picture of the Mandalorian on the toilet taking a crap, reading Harry Potter, which it's literally a framed meme at this point. He got that for Christmas this past year. He hung it in his main bathroom, and his girlfriend has to see it all the time. And every time I see her, or see like some of her friends, because I've become friends with her friends and whatnot. It's, why did you give him that damn Mandalorian thing? It looks so bad. It's so tacky. And in my mind, I'm like, I finally stopped her once and I was like, do you pay rent at his house? Do you pay utilities? do you pay internet? Do you bring food? No? So you're a guest? Yeah. If one of my guests was pissed off that I had like a whiskey decanter that is, a biplane, I'd be like, okay, leave.
Yeah.
And so with that, that doesn't work for me to have a one-to-one face-to-face interaction. So Cat Academy's group, to jump it back to the point, was great because it is a variety of people. It's a variety of ages. And I think that's the big thing, because no matter how you approach this situation, you have variations of a central problem. But the way to solve that problem, it's really like probably 10 or 20 commingled problems, are very dependent on circumstance. That doesn't mean that you're going to run into a data scientist or an undergraduate that you can't completely understand and work with or help or talk through, because the commingled problems, even though they're circumstantially different, they do have kernels of reasoning behind them that you can pull out of if you just sit there and think about it. And the best advice I can give students that in Cat Academy, or if they decide to do social attraction system, is be honest with yourself. Like, I get the notion of irrational self-confidence, and I know some people that are rationally self-confident, and I respect the hell out of them. but there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
And you're not here because you are just slaying, such as it were. So be honest with yourself. If you made a mistake, so what? The thing about it is, you know, I tell this to undergrads all the time that I deal with. I'm like, I don't care that you make a mistake. I care about how you respond to the mistake and what you say, you know, what you say to yourself. And what does that mean? It means, what did I do wrong? And sometimes it's not, as I said before, it's not your fault. And guys in the group will say, well, you might have needed to think about it this way. And don't turn into like this ragey, you know, get upset because someone said something like that. Just say, cool, rock on. Thank you. And it's very easy to say, thank you, I disagree, but I appreciate the time. That is my go-to phrase when I disagree with somebody. It's like, dude, look, let's just agree to disagree, and I'll be interested to see your results. So I think it's good.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. And with both of these courses, with CAD Academy in particular, what I try to do, you have to get this balance between giving theoretical knowledge, and CAD Academy really focuses on things like, you know, not being such a nice guy, okay, and being unafraid to stand out from the crowd and do things a little bit differently, and that within the context of the general dating marketplace. So first of all, we have to understand, okay, so what is happening with dating out there anyway? Then we have to say, okay, so how do I stand out and create competitive advantage? Which, in my view, is not being a nice guy, and then, you know, radical differentiation, standing out in different ways. And then we go into, obviously, we talk a lot about mindset and how to create the right mindsets, to get yourself in the right position, to go and do the things that you need to do. And then we go into this complete rundown of A to Z of, right, this is how you do the modern dating game. This is how you approach. This is how you text. This is how you follow up. This is what you do on a date, etc., etc. So from a sort of theoretical framework, I'm trying to give them people everything that they need in the pre-recorded videos. But then, of course, we've got the group calls as well, where we can fill in any gaps and also motivate each other to, you know, to go on and actually do this stuff, because it's as I'm sure you'll attest, theoretical knowledge is great, but it means absolutely nothing unless you actually go out and do some stuff as well.
Yes. How do you actualize this is the big thing. And it's different for everybody. You haven't seen him because I put him outside. I've got a giant husky in my house. And I can tell you a giant wolf dog is catnip for women. I am well known at a brunch spot local. They don't know my name, they know the dog's name. I still have fun with it. And that's kind of an example, but it's like, how do you actualize this theory? What does actualizing look like? And really that comes down to, and that's where, you know, I guess to go back to the funnel analogy, you have the Twitter slogan or the 30-second blurb on Instagram.
Yeah.
And CAD Academy is the first level of, okay, what does this actually mean? Like I get it, but I don't get it. And, you know, what are the steps that I need to take to make this make sense? Yes. And that's where, you know, the radical differentiation, you know, I'm sure I asked you this question, what does that actually mean? And when you do that, what sort of results did you get?
Yeah.
I mean, I leaned way too hard on just being very, very intelligent. That's great. Technically, by statistics, that's a radical differentiator. That also doesn't mean a damn thing to the vast majority of women. If anything, it's just you're insanely intimidating. And if I promise, if you crack a woman with logic in an argument, you've just automatically lost. Like don't expect to win in that context, even though you can be perfectly right and you can be perfectly wrong. I'm not saying that frame is bad. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying that leverage your intelligence to get the right tool for the job. Don't just assume your intelligence or your radical differentiator is a sledgehammer that you can use every time. You know, in sledgehammer, I love this metaphor. A sledgehammer is very satisfying when you hit a wall with it. It's absolutely terrifying when you hit a baby with it. And if you only have a sledgehammer, you're going to unfortunately hit some things you don't want to hit. So Indeed. Yeah, the actualization thing's a big deal.
Indeed. No, absolutely. And then I developed this longer program, which is basically my 12-week mentoring program, or called the social attraction system because it deals with social attraction. So how can we attract people to us in a socially normal, authentic manner? And then you came into that program and we worked one-on-one, although I am looking actually at bringing a group element into that as well, because I think the group dynamic is super, super important for the reasons we've said. But what would you say the key differences were with social attraction system, and what did you get out of that experience?
So the thing with social attraction system is it is more intense. You have homework,
Yeah,
which ironic, but it's more intense. It's also more immediate. And it's not so group discussion has value. Don't get me wrong. That's one of the things I highlighted with Cat Academy. But it's also like working with you one-on-one. There's a certain level of, nobody still, even if you're comfortable in a situation, being vulnerable is not necessarily easy.
yeah,
And so with social attraction system, I mean, you can roast me all you like. I would ask you questions about stuff and be like, I don't understand like this specific thing, and this is why I think it is. And because of our continued interactions, you were like, okay, think about it this way.
yeah,
And so, for me, it was kind of a culmination. Not kind of, it was a culmination, but it is more intensive. I probably sent you, criminy, probably 3 or 4, like particularly on a weekend, 3 or 4 DMs being like, I did this thing. I had an
yeah,
interaction. It was, and that's something you don't really get with Cat Academy as much. You can do it to the group, but unfortunately, when there are 100 guys when there are 100 guys, you don't get that as much.
yeah,
And that's, to me, that's where the intensity sort of ramps up. And for me personally, I can say this, Troy, it was also kind of where the last little pieces of the whole framework that I had been working on off and on for a couple of years finally clicked into place.
yeah,
And I've seen positive results from that. It's coherent. It's more, everything to me is now coherent. And now I know I'm a lot happier with it, because it's like I know what this means.
yes,
And I
yeah,
know I hate to say, oh, I was on a journey of self-discovery, because it makes me sound like, frou frou rah rah, and that's just not my mode. But that to me was what social attraction system was. It's like, okay, I've now got all the tools. I've learned from a small group. Now let's get real intense for 3 months and, be honest with Troy and be honest with myself, and let's build a metaphorical house.
yeah.
That's what I look at it as.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that accountability and that sort of intensity of working together, and sometimes as much as a more of a group program like CAD Academy, which is a shorter program as well. Let's be honest. I mean, I do about 5 days worth of live webinars, which is quite intense. But then after that, it's finished effectively. Although obviously they've got, you've got the video material that you can continue to go through. But whereas with the mentoring program, it's a longer burn, and it's really a question of, okay, let's really get to the bottom of this together. What are the issues that you're having, and how can we solve them in your particular situation? And like you said, I mean, your situation is different to to other guys that I've worked with. So there needs to be that degree of individuality to it, because what's going to work for you is not necessarily going to work for a guy who's, I don't know, who's into going to the party every night, and he's just got a very different sort of lifestyle. So yeah, that individual accountability I think is really key. But how did it feel when you started to to make some breakthroughs with this stuff, and to start to see, it wasn't like results as such, but you started to sort of see things differently through a different lens, if you like?
So I think one of the, I want to just say one more thing about social attraction system. The timeline helps, because if you come at it with an open mind, you will make, if you come at it with an open mind, you're on it, Troy, you're honest with me, I'm honest with myself, you will make steps forward.
Yeah,
That is what you are getting with this product. That is what I got. If you sort of waffle and say, oh, blah, 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 you don't know what you're doing. Okay, great. You get what you get out what you put in. But to your question about what started to change, or what has since changed, because I believe we finished the program 2 months ago, but you and I still go back and forth. And
yeah, yeah,
I appreciate the access, don't get me wrong.
yeah, yeah. No,
It's
absolutely.
it's the it just, to me, I hate to keep using this funnel idea. It is, I've now built this house. This is why I built this house. This is what has worked, and this is what hasn't worked, and why. I am, I'll go a little personal. December 23rd, 2021, I left my mother's house. I get a phone call from my mother, 10 p.m. that night, 10 p.m. local. My dad had just died. Died at home. I live 90 seconds away. I'm a Star Trek guy, and I said I could have had him in the middle of Starfleet Medical in the 25th century, and he was still gone. It was that. It was boom, like that. And as part of my getting over that, because this was going on concurrent to some of the CAD stuff, and then really with the social attraction system, it was my understanding of how to cope with it, how to cope with my new reality. And I'll be the first to admit that I know exactly how deep the bourbon bottle goes. Like you can swim in a deep, deep ocean, and you will really mess yourself up if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And, part of social attraction system, and concurrent with me dealing with my father's death, the fallout was understanding that it's like, what does a positive interaction look like? Like redefining a lot of stuff. And that's so you had two independent things, but they created a dependency with social attraction system and this deal in my real life. And so, like, now I deal with, I'm dating a young lady. She's an undergrad. I will go there. So she's younger, and she struggles to deal with whatever, like not doing perfect. I will explain this via example. She asked me to edit a paper, and I edited it for her, and she just lost it because I edited it really hard. I was a professional editor before I was a data scientist. And I just ended up saying, I'm like, you know what? Look, this happens. It's not a big deal. Let's go let's go beat the hell out of a couple of bags, because that's what we do together. And so, like, the thing that I always say in my head, like whenever I'm interacting with a young lady, it's how can I just be kind of the fun one? How can I be the fun guy? If we have to get serious and we have to get into a skull session where I have to sort of pound on you with logic a little bit, I will. But that's no longer the default for me. It's, I'm a girl. I'm pissed off because of the price of tea in China. I'm like, okay, well, why don't we just go to a movie and not worry about that? And I know that sounds banal, but that was a major change for me, because I am a guy. You have a problem. Let's solve the problem. And it's like, okay, it's not that I don't care about your problem. It's that I need to figure out a way to reframe your problem in such a way that you can have fun and either not worry about it or take a deep breath, because suddenly you're in the moment, you're freaking out. And, if I say something that's constructive but is the wrong thing to say, it's then my fault.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that when I say working through that and working through those results, that's been a big thing. And it's not just, and I think this doesn't, and I'm not being critical of you, but you don't say this aspect enough, Troy. Dating, being charismatic, being socially attractive is not just the women that you attract. It's the people that you attract.
Yeah.
You need to be able to go into a conference, and I'll use my work experience. You need to be able to go into a conference, come up, look a guy in the eye, shake his hand, and ask him, what did you think about this? I really enjoyed your paper, blah, 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 and have a coherent conversation. You need to be able to go up to a group of people, and maybe you only know two of them, but you can just walk up and say, oh man, that was really cool. Or I'll give you a perfect example. One of my buddies at a recent social gathering, he was talking to a gentleman that I'd never met. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, he hadn't introduced me, which is a faux pas, gentlemen. Do not do that crap. It's not funny. It's not good. Just interrupt, shake hands, move on with conversation. I introduced myself, and I was like, hey, I'm Thomas. I'm good friends with this guy, Michael, da, 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 da. So that's been the thing. Like, if we have, even with like guys at work, and I work in a high pressure environment, it happens. I'll have the serious conversations, but I'll also joke around a lot.
Yeah.
And that sort of interaction, not just with women. Again, women love that. Women love it too, or women enjoy it too. That's been the big thing for me. And learning how to manage all of that in a way that I enjoy has been great. And that to me has been the most valuable thing. And I guess if you wanted a sloganeer from me, come for the dating advice, stay for the social advice, because that's really
Yeah.
what I've gotten.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. That is 100% important. I mean, it's probably, maybe it's slightly less of a selling point for guys. If you're looking on the internet, it's like, hey, how to get hot girls, and people immediately buy into that. Whereas, hey, how to influence,
Sure.
high powered guys. But actually, really, you need to be able to do both, or you need to be able to do one in order to do the other effectively.
Right.
Because the ability to be socially authentic, to some extent socially dominant, but certainly socially competent, at minimum, is very, very important with this stuff, because the women that you meet are going to judge you on that. That's the other thing, right? If you're, you can say a few lines and you can be charming and witty with her, but if you then fold like a house of cards when there are other guys in the equation or a larger social group, then that is just not going to pay you any dividends whatsoever, is it?
Right. And the ultimate example of that is you're in a social group. You go to an event. Um, I joined essentially a small country club to try and grow my network in the past 6 months. And there was a wine tasting, and I brought a couple of young ladies because, hey, free wine, that's instant social credit, and it's a members only thing with their guests. So I gained that also. But the next level is you go up to some people that you've met, you introduce them, you say whatever, and you just kind of mess around. You have a funny story because you've seen this person before, and it's like, this freaking guy, what's the common New York movie quote? This friggin' goy. Now, that's a little silly, but if you're able to do that and like bring a girl that you have just met into a conversation, or a conversation with friends or with people she doesn't know, and say, oh yeah, I know this guy through this, it's kind of cool, we did this thing once. That's just extra social credit, because not only can you handle the one-on-one, hey, you're a pretty girl, let's go, do the dance with no pants. It's, hey, you're a pretty girl, and I know how to fold you into my existence in a coherent way. It maintains comfort because, and this is another part of the problem with being too logical, sometimes people just want to turn themselves off. And I don't mean in a sexual context. It's, they just want to go with the flow. And how do you get someone out of going with the flow? You kind of make them fence, and logical debate is fencing in many cases. So that, again, that's kind of that's an easy example, but being able to seamlessly transition between that's something that I've had to learn. And I'll be honest, that's something I'm still improving on. Like, I will be the first one to admit I am not great at working a room yet, but doggone it, based on what you've taught me and what I've then experienced and been able to actualize, I'm going to be able to get better, because now I see it, I go through it. Happy days is kind of my thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of the two programs, are there any particular sort of results or experiences that spring to mind that are kind of stand out?
A couple of laughing about getting myself blown out and kind of taking it apart. No, I mean, but that's,
which is important as well.
Yeah,
it's important as well, right?
And I'll tell the story. I had a young lady. I thought it went very well, but we drank a little too much, and it turned sour real quick. Well, what do you take out of that? Slow the hell down when you're at the bar, genius. Or do you need to not drink anymore because suddenly that problem turns into a 2 or 3 day, oh my God, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
But being able to take stuff apart is a big thing. But I'll be honest, I can't remember a lot of specifics. It's just, for me, the way I work is, you'll say something and I'll be like, okay, this means this, cool. And then if I don't do that, or I try that adaptation, it's like, oh, you told me to do this damn thing and I did it this way and it was silly. So, understanding more than anything, like, you're going to make mistakes doing this, but let's try and figure out those stakes in a coherent way is my big, my big takeaway. Because again, I talked about being, I'm going to hit you with my intellectualism because I'm a published scientist and rah, 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 rah. It's like, okay, cool. Great. Tell a girl who has an undergraduate degree in elementary ed that you've got publications in high-ranking conferences, and she may as well be the Sahara if she doesn't set a land speed record to run away from you.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a sad indictment, but that is absolutely the case. So we have to bring something else to the table, which is hopefully these, what Khan Academy and also social attraction system kind of teach. But if guys were considering getting some coaching in this area, or indeed considering, coming to work with me on one of these courses, what would you say to them? Because for me, I see it from the other side, obviously. So I recognize that there's a lot that guys need to be upskilled on that perhaps they don't even know, when they're just out there before they've embarked on something like this. But there's a lot of very obvious kind of easy things that can get fixed very quickly when they start working on a program of like this. But what do you say to that? If somebody's thinking about this and sitting on the fence, what would you say to them?
So the easy thing is, what do you have to lose? But I realize, your programs cost money.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, see, that's a tough question. You kind of caught me flat-footed. But if you're on the fence with this, I think you have to be honest with your expectations. A lot of people say, or ask yourself, are you okay with your existence as you live? Like, can you, at the end of the day, you brush your teeth, you walk into your bedroom, you go to get in bed, you look yourself in the mirror and you say, am I okay with the sum total of my interactions today? And you're talking interactions at work, at the grocery store, with your significant other, with your mother, with your cat. I mean, now the cat's a little silly, but bear with me. If you're okay with it, then, and if you're honestly okay with it, not, oh, I'm okay that my girlfriend henpecked me to death because I got my once a month blowjob. It's like, dude, come on. But let's just assume that that's not the reality I'm discussing, because that's something that, God, I feel sorry for you. But anyway, it's, if you can honestly say that you're good with all of your interactions, or 90% of your interactions, nothing's ever going to be perfect. The perfect day does not exist. Then maybe a Khan Academy or a social attraction system is not for you. But if you find yourself frequently at the end of the day, you've got your iPad or your book, or you're just going to bed because you went out and you went to the whiskey cigar bar and had a whiskey and a cigar and something happened. If you frequently find that you're going to bed unhappy, or you're getting off work and you're just miserable for whatever reason, whether it's, your boss was an ass, the Susie in HR told you to get bent, whatever.
Yeah.
Think about getting into a Khan Academy. Think about getting into a social attraction system, because the thing about this sort of social interaction is the vast majority of stuff is fixable. Like this isn't, socializing is not a Gordian knot. You're not, you're not a broken guy. No, the girl's never gonna, no, shut up. That's just not the reality.
Yeah.
It's just, start taking steps. The funny thing about success, and the funny thing about success in general, is that as long as you're a little bit better every day, eventually it'll click. And I had to keep telling myself that. And occasionally you will take a step back. That's the reality of existence. But if you keep working at it and you keep thinking about it and you keep stubbing your toe, eventually you're going to stop stubbing your toe in a terrible way, and you'll be better for it. But yeah, just to recap, Troy, I apologize. You've let me ramble a lot. So, dangerous thoughts there. If you're not okay with some part of your existence tied to socialization, whether it's dating or whether it's business or whether it's whatever, but this is really a dating centric thing, take a hard think. Take a hard think, because believe me, I work in a tech company. I deal with women every day, like a predominantly male field, still deal with women every day. And because of some of the stuff you've taught me, it's a positive interaction. So and that can only, what does that mean in a business context? Well, if I make a mistake, doggone it, they'll probably shoot me an email and they'll be able to fix it before it turns into a cataclysm. What does it mean in a dating context? I have something to do this. I get to go to Lord of the Rings with a pretty girl.
Yes.
So that to me is really what I've gotten out of it, and what I continue to enjoy about our interactions, because now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, it's just funny stories. We got I won't spoiler alert our private conversations, but occasionally you get these text messages and you're like, I can't believe she just said that to me. What is this? This is hilarious. So
yeah, exactly.
It's good.
Exactly. And you're now dating a very attractive lady, somewhat younger, let's say. So things are working out. Things are looking pretty good for you right now. Yeah.
Yes. I'm enjoying that, but I'm still like, it's not it's not an air quote serious thing, but it's certainly something where the pretty girl that's going to go to Lord of the Rings, that's the one. So it's good
stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and an absolute pleasure, obviously, having you in the programs. And you'll be in CAD Academy, and I hope that you will continue to come in for many moons to come. So thanks ever so much, Thomas. And any final words?
Hopefully we'll see you in CAD Academy, and if you decide to, just come in with an open mind. Some of this stuff will be gigantically uncomfortable. Once it gets to be comfortable, you will be so much happier with your existence in whatever context that is.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Okay. Many thanks, man. We will speak again very soon. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.